Hello everyone, welcome to another daily Muppet. Today following Manchester United's exit from the Champions League in the round of 16, 1-0 to Atletico Madrid. Don't want to spend too much time on this one because it was obviously extremely disappointing and not necessarily the subject of these videos, and could probably spend an hour discussing everything that went wrong in this game, in the season, and all of that. But what can I say? Just real briefly, I mean, it's bad. It was bad. And frankly, I think what we're seeing right now with Manchester United is the death rattle of a decade-long, $1 billion mistake under the guidance of Ed Woodward, with investment in 3 or 4 different ideas and no cohesive plan or structure behind it. And that's the result. What we see yesterday, what we're seeing this season, is kind of the culmination of all of that. Does it mean everything's bad? No, and I'm a pretty positive person when it comes to these things. I think there's a lot of good signs, but at the same time, it's not good. It's not good. And this is what we're seeing. It's a mess. I mean, look, you had Juan Mata come on for his first appearance in months in a Champions League round of 16 when you're trying to get a goal. Nemanja Matic comes on. Rashford comes on. What does he do? Nothing. He's been terrible, and I can give him a lot of blame, and we can talk about what's he supposed to do, but he comes on and the plan is just run at somebody or something. But that's not football. Sancho sits on the side and he doesn't interplay with Alex Telles. Fred's running forward into spots for passes, and Scott's just carrying the ball up past him instead of covering as a defensive midfielder, and then sends the ball out wide. There's just no plan, and it's not to blame Rangnick because there's not much he could do. The best we could expect from Ralph this year as an interim is to come in, implement a bit of a cohesive, structured pressing system, analyze the team, analyze the squad, and move on to whatever position he has next, which we'll talk about in a moment. And I think that's what he's done. And I think there's nothing else we can expect from him. And I'm not blaming him. What we have is a squad of 20-plus players who expect to play, all with varying strengths and weaknesses that don't suit each other and are exacerbated even by the weaknesses of other players. Harry Maguire is slow, but he gets forward on the ball and nobody goes behind him. So, of course, his weakness of being slow and not getting back into position is exacerbated by the fact that there's no Rodri, there's no Fabinho to cover behind him, and there hasn't been. We used to throw Fred back there to try to band-aid that and have him drop into the back line, but this year he's playing in a proper role and actually doing well at the expense of Harry Maguire not having any sort of coverage, because McTominay doesn't do it. Matic does when he comes on. So anyway, there's a million things that could go wrong, that have the profiles of every player on this team is different. The rotational profiles are different. Nobody's the same. Their backups are, when they come on, bring a whole different style. So it's a culmination of all of that. And, you know, what I will say is that I'm willing to give the new structure the benefit of the doubt on this. I know a lot of people aren't. They'll say, how can we trust them after 10 years of this? Making these decisions, why should we trust these people? No, I don't trust the people that made the decisions for the last 10 years. That's Woodward. Woodward was looking at all the information presented and saying, let's buy this person and this person and this person, and making these decisions and presenting them to Joel Glazer. I don't trust them. I don't trust the people who've made decisions the last 10 years. But Woodward's gone too. Richard Arnold is in place, who supposedly is going to have little to no involvement in the football side of things. Martin Fletcher in place, and there are different decision makers than there used to be. There just are. And we can say that if they choose Pochettino or if they do this or that, then they're no different, but that's confirmation bias. We don't know that. We don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if Ten Hag will work. We don't know if Pochettino will work. We have no certainty on any of these things, so we cannot say that these decisions are doomed to fail from the start until we see what happens. I don't want to give them a pass. Where the club is at today is a failure, and the last decade, let's just put it in bold letters, it's confirmed, it's a failure under Woodward. It is. But there's a new era now, one way or another. Richard Arnold as CEO, Murtaugh, Fletcher, and Ralph Rangnick. And they've got a real test to put this together. Let's talk about this a little bit. Before we talk about any news, I think there's something that's more important with regards to the manager situation. One thing has to happen regardless of which manager comes in, who gets decided, and it's not just about backing, it's not just about being given money. They have to decide on a plan that is bigger than the manager, and they must say, this is what we are building, this is what we are doing, you put it in place. You accomplish this. They shouldn't be asking the manager, how do we build a team? They should be telling them, this is what we want, you've got to pull it off. You need to improve the players, you need to coach them into proper structures, you need to evaluate them correctly. Get rid of people who don't fit, and really let us know what you need in order to pull this off, and we'll make sure that we get the right people. But they have to clear out so many people. Like I said, it's a different philosophy every week. McFred with Bruno is a totally different team to Matic and Fred and Bruno, is a totally different team to Scott, Bruno, and Pogba. They play totally different every single week. And by having such a bloated squad, you have every time the team changes a little, it changes a lot. And that's a huge difference when you watch Pep's teams play, Klopp's teams play, when you watch Liverpool. When they substitute players in, or when they have a different starting lineup, they're rotating, they're resting. Is it different? Is the plan different? Are they playing a different philosophy suddenly? No, it's exactly the same. Because they've built a whole team that fits together. You know, it used to be Rashford on the counter, Shaw with overlaps. What is it? It's different. It's different every week depending on who's playing. And that doesn't work. And that is one of the worst ways that the squad has been built, as a mishmash of all these different managers' ideas, because when you rotate, you actually have to change the whole system. And so it's not about which one's better, it's just that there's no one system and one plan to follow through with every single week, with no matter what players are on the pitch. And that has to change. That's been a mistake of the past few managers, and it's been a mistake of the management in just giving managers what they want and not actually building something behind the scenes. No matter who it is, as the next manager, Ten Hag, Poch, anyone, it will be better than what we've had, because I think they're better managers, for one, but also because with Rangnick there and with the structure there now, they should follow a philosophy that supersedes the manager, and that the manager is there to put in place so that we don't have this happen anymore. And by getting rid of players, a lot of the players we discussed in one of the videos prior, I talked about Ralph and Fletcher's clear out. By getting rid of all these players, you're left with at least a team of players. Maybe they're all not good enough, but you're left with a core of players that all play the same style, or that can be put in place with the same philosophy. Then you build on top of that and you stick with that philosophy. Even Ollie got the best results with this team by sticking with a philosophy, whether it was the right one or not, by sticking with it. And what happened this season where things collapsed is he tried to change it, but he didn't get the right players to do so. Didn't have the players to change it. By chopping and changing the philosophy, it got worse and worse and worse. Stick with one and build it, and sometimes getting rid of a lot of people allows you to do that more and more and build on top of it. So they have to clear it out and figure out what's the actual philosophy, what's the core that they're building on, and then build on top of that and just stick with it. And that is the whole point of having the football structure and appointing a manager who's going to accomplish that. So now on to the news and the situation. Here's the deal. I told you beforehand in a different video that Ten Hag needed to keep impressing in order to have a chance at this job. The fact of the matter is, whether you see it this way or not, he doesn't have a history of managing a top club in a top league. So his qualifications are very much based on exceeding expectations, and winning the league in Ajax is not exceeding expectations and is not guaranteed this year. It's expected. So he needed to go further in Champions League to do more. And you could say, well, yes, of course, but winning the League One with PSG is also expected. Yeah, it is, absolutely. But you still have a difference in the record of managing PSG, a huge club, debatably, financially anyway, and debating Tottenham, a big English side, managing Southampton, even, another English team, versus just Ajax. And that is the way that they're looking at it. That's the way that they're making that judgment. And you have to realize how they might look at it, because that Benfica knockout is not good. You have to look at the situation now where by the end of the season, Ten Hag could be out of the Champions League in the round of 16, and he may not even win Eredivisie. He might be the second place manager there. They're only up, I think it's 3 or something like that. And they have a huge game against PSV on Saturday. So it's really tight. And they're not going to want to put a manager in place on that. Just right or wrong, they're not going to want to. And you got to look at what they'll judge it on. Last night, Ajax played at home against Benfica. Do you know who's in the back line for Benfica? Jan Vertonghen and Nicolas Otamendi. Those are the center backs for Benfica that Ajax couldn't score on. 2 washed up, and they were washed up by the time they left the Premier League. Ex-Prem center backs who play physical, kind of old school Premier League football. And Ajax struggled against them to break them down. Now, they played well. I'm not saying that they didn't. They played great. I actually don't blame Ten Hag at all. I'm just talking about how we will be judged for it. There are concerns from Ten Hag fans, from Ajax fans, that he lacks a plan B, that he doesn't adapt to these kind of situations. But again, I don't actually blame him. I think Ajax were great. I watched both legs, and I think Ajax were very good. They got taken out by some pretty typical physical football, taking your one chances. Darwin Nunez gets a chance, he scores. That's it. Great striker. We'll talk about him in a moment. But that is the challenge. That's how he's going to be judged, rightly or wrongly. And I got one word after the game as it pertains to the United job from someone around Ten Hag, and that word was disaster, in terms of basically how it was viewed for his chances of getting the job. Disaster. You might have seen things have already been leaning towards Pochettino. They have to be leaning very strongly towards Pochettino at this point, because there's not much more Ten Hag can do to earn the job now. So if he wasn't already ahead, how can he get ahead now in the eyes of United management? Remember, I'm just passing you, again, information. I have my own opinions, but these are the facts in terms of how they look at things and how they judge these things, and I'm trying to explain it and just pass that information along. Personally, I think regardless, I'd be happy with either, but like I said, regardless, what's more important is that the whole structure is there, the plan is there, and the manager's brought in to carry out that style, does a clear out, and starts building something. A plan, and goes for it. Okay? Now, there's a few things about this that I want to note as well. You've seen all the stuff in the last couple of days about a new stadium, a new grounds, all of that. Some of it's PR, some of it's feelers, putting things out, seeing what fan reaction is, but this has been a major project for some time, upgrading Carrington, working out where the women and the under-23s and such can play on a more permanent and enhanced basis. And this is actually a major project that's being headed up by John Murtaugh. And so when you saw the story about him wanting a deputy director of football in the past, that's why. As opposed to a different club where the job for the deputy director of football might just be the youth and men's team, Murtaugh's got the men's team, got the youth, got the women's team, has all these projects, all of that. And he wants a deputy director of football who's going to manage the men's senior team and obviously coordinate the youth into that. He's got a much bigger job at United than just the director of football aspect of it. Keep an eye out on Ralph Rangnick for that job. Just keep an eye out on him. It's always been a possibility that he could move into that position. I don't think anything's decided, but that would be a way you could see to sell it to United fans as well. Move Ralph Rangnick into that position, which makes sense, and then you could put Pochettino under him, and you'd have I think you'd get some support from for that from fans. I think you would, and it's a good plan. Whoever goes underneath him, it's a good plan. I would add that Thomas Tuchel is not going to be leaving Chelsea for Manchester United, so far as I've heard. They may be interested. They may be monitoring whatever that means. That's journalist speak. But I've been told pretty specifically he's not leaving to join Manchester United this summer. So just get it out of your head. I think they're going to decide on what they're going to decide very shortly and kind of finalize it. In terms of players-wise, last time we talked about Pochettino asking for Harry Kane, but what I've mostly discovered is in reality it's going to be one or the other in terms of the big two targets, Rice or Harry Kane. Very difficult, nearly impossible to get both. Rice and the midfield is viewed as a bigger priority than Harry Kane at striker, especially with Champions League in doubt. It would get more difficult. Still keep an eye on Darwin Nunez for that striker position. I don't want to gloat about too much, having talked about him a couple months ago first and identifying him as someone that United should go for, but he really is the real deal. He finds the net. He scores in the league. He scores in the Champions League. Big goals. He's not a flat track, he really comes up when it matters. He scores against Barcelona. He scored against Ajax to knock them out. He's got 20 goals in the league. Special player, and the type of player you want, someone who you give him one chance and he can score. And easily top of my list. Whoever comes in, gotta get him. I hope we do. There's going to be a lot of clubs interested. Newcastle, West Ham, Atletico, Inter. Keep an eye on Inter as well. They're actually in a good position for wages and budget and could be an outlet for some players. And they're going to be looking to enhance their striker position and the attack in the future as well, which could mean players from us. It could mean players like Darwin Nunez. And then the last one is, again, Ronald Araujo, as I talked about with the center back. I think we need to upgrade at center back. I think we need a young player who has the potential to come in and bench Harry Maguire, Lindelof, and get in that top side. There's a very reliable Spanish report on Twitter that says that United have made an offer of 8 million euros for the salary. I don't know how formal or official that is. I believe that it's similar to Varane, where earlier in the year, before summer, some conversations occurred about if you don't re-sign, this is kind of what we'd be willing to pay, what we'd be willing to offer. And he certainly is going to be using that to see if he can get Barcelona to increase the contract offer, no doubt about it. But if they can't, and they may not be, they're signing Kessie on a free. They're looking at Mazraoui on a free and a few other players. They have Christensen on a free as well. I don't know how much wages they have to offer. They're going to need to move some players to increase their wages based on the new La Liga restrictions. So just really definitely keep an eye on that. And Rice, Kane, Darwin Nunez, Araujo, I would keep an eye on all those situations. I think there's more. Keep an eye on some backups and over the next few weeks, things should stabilize, come clear on the manager's situation, and then the targets on the transfer front will start to move forward. So that's what I would expect to happen. Once again, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, and I'll see you in the next video.